You've been 10 or 12 years running Meta ads. What's one thing you wish you would have known before now, like when you first got started?
I think how much ad costs will go up. So I remember there was golden days where it was like it cost me 1 cent to get someone to click on stuff. And I
Yeah.
was like, compared to now, my minimum is like $1. I was like, I wish I knew that it would change that much from a pricing perspective. But if I had known that what I know now would happen and change, I'm like, I probably would have spent way more
Back
back
then.
then without any cost of what it would cost me now. So I think that, yeah, hindsight's a beautiful thing from that perspective. And I think for anyone, that's also only going to increase into the future.
Are you ready for next level growth in your business? Welcome to the Millionaire Maker Show, where we pull back the curtain on the exact strategies, tools, and mindsets that build $1,000,000 empires. If you're hungry for more time, more freedom, and a whole lot more impact, you've come to the right place. Buckle up, because we're about to ignite your business journey. Now, here's Lindsay.
Welcome to another episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. Today's guest is Mr. Kim Barrett. Kim is a world-renowned $1,000,000 marketing strategist with a focus on Facebook and Meta ads. Kim is an international speaker and trainer, having taught marketing around the world and helping businesses grow to 6, 7, and 8 figures. He is the founder and CEO of Your Social Voice, an Australian-based digital marketing agency established in 2015. He helps people get heard on social media and, most importantly, build engagement, generate more leads, and sales. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we dive into talking about Meta ads and the world of AI and ads, tell me the story about you being a Lord of Scotland.
It's funny because it's like when I went away and I was at a business mastermind event and we're all talking about one of the big things I love doing is point hacking, getting free upgrades and all that sort of stuff. And we were talking about flying. And I was reading an article the week before, and it was like, if you're someone who has a title like doctors, lords, dukes, all that sort of stuff, I was like, you're actually more likely to get upgraded and move when they go through the list and see you. Same as when you go check into a hotel, they'll be like, oh, if you're actually legitimate, they're like, we'll move some things around for you to try and help. And then one of the guys is, yeah, but you can just I think you can just buy a lordship. Like you can just purchase one. And I was like, can you? So I went online, jumped on and had a look, and it was like literally $69 to become a Lord of Scotland. So in Scotland, the official thing is if you own 1 square meter of land in a certain area, that qualifies you to have like a lordship title. So we're sitting there at this resort. It was like an all inclusive place for this mastermind. And I was like, if I can do this with PayPal on my phone right now, because I didn't have my cards or anything, I was like, I'm going to become a Lord of Scotland, guys. So we're going through the process, got to the end, and it was like, check out with PayPal. And I was like, done. So I did it, ordered the whole thing, got it sent to me. And then, yeah, technically speaking, I am officially a Lord of Scotland, which only happened because we had a few beers and then they were like, you should do it. And then the rest of the trip, like every time I go to that mastermind or event now, they're always like, Lord Kim, how are you?
I
So
love this. I love it. But my main question is, so does it work? Do you put it on your name when you get on a plane and stuff like that? Does it work?
so I did. I went through like just after that, I went and did an event over in Vancouver Island, and so I was going through Canada, and so everywhere I went, I put like Lord Kim Barrett as my like check-in thing, and it did literally. Sometimes I got like ushered upstairs, so like, there's like a separate check-in and stuff like that, and
Wow.
it did work. It works.
I wonder if that's the big takeaway for today's show. No, let's talk about Meta ads. So if I were to ask you, Kim, what are you known for? How would you answer that?
Yeah, for me, it's like helping people make money online. Like I've been doing this now for the last 10, 12 years. But I've always been focused on meta advertising. Obviously, there's still so many other parts outside of just the ads that are important. But for me, when I first learned ads, when they were first coming, like meta ads were first coming out, Facebook ads back in the day, there were Google ads, Facebook ads just came out, and then there was like SEO and all that other sort of stuff. And I was like, SEO seems really boring. Google seemed really complicated. So I was like, Facebook's going to be where I stay. So That's what we've focused on, myself and then our company now for the last 10, 12 years. And it's been interesting and it's evolved. And then obviously they brought in Instagram and WhatsApp now and things like that.
Yeah, and you always have to be keeping up. It seems like meta ads are always changing all of the time. Now, right now, we're in AI land. So, how have you found that AI has affected what's been going on for meta ads?
For a lot of people, because I work with businesses who are like, I'll call them small businesses, but they're still pretty big in the realm of things. If you get to 10 or $20 million a year, you could have a pretty big business. So from there down to people that are just starting out. So they're all in the eyes of Meta and everything, small micro businesses. But for most of us, we're not spending $1 million a month on ads, right? And that's where I think AI can come into play and be really helpful. But if you're someone who just needs to get, I just want leads or I want sales off my website or whatever it might be, and you're not spending that amount of money, AI doesn't really help because for me, when I look at most business owners, that we have a niche who we work with, right? We have a niche of Americans, right? We have a particular group of people that we want to work with and target. And what Meta is saying now is they're going, we don't want you to put in any targeting parameters. Your copy that you write, the image that's on your ad, that will do enough for us and we'll help find your audience. But I know that doesn't work. So I have many clients that are ladies and they want to work with only other ladies and all they run these ads and they suddenly get all of these guys flooding into their DMs that are coming from their ads. So I've just seen time again, it doesn't work. So most of these changes are really going to hit into effect in Q1 of next year, like January, February. So they've gone, we want to automatically target things. We don't want you to put anything in. Now they've just removed the ability for you to, we used to be able to exclude parts of an audience. So if you're like, people that are interested in this are not my people, I want to exclude them from seeing my ads, you can no longer do that. That's like being removed. So any new campaigns that are set up from July onwards, not able to do that. When you go and put your ad copy in, they want you to use their AI generated copy, which is just extremely average. And it's not going to like encourage someone to click on an ad or leave their details. It's like before the very, very early days of it, it was really terrible. They didn't force you to do it. Now they're trying to force everyone to use the AI parts and it's just not that good. Eventually, I'm sure it will be good for all of us, but unless you're spending, as I said, if you're spending millions a month and you have a really big target audience, like if you're someone who would maybe in the past run a TV ad or something like that, and you're going B2C, not B2B or anything like that, it can work. But if you have a very specific niche that you go after, it's just shocking at the moment.
Yeah, and I've noticed because I've also been in the Facebook ads game for the last 10 or 15 years. So you used to be able to exclude audiences or target your upload a custom audience, or there was certain targeting and they pull back on all of it. So then you're just left. I felt like the power of meta ads at one point anyway was how targeted you can be. What is that going to look like next year when we all just have to belly up to the bar and just accept what they put in there? What do you think that's gonna do for ad costs, which are already not what they used to be?
That's exactly it. It is going to push the costs up. The workaround and the thing that I think is the most important for people to be able to use now is content marketing, but paid content marketing. So, for example, like people like you that have an amazing podcast, people that are out there creating content on a regular basis, I think that if we run those content pieces to our ideal audience right now, while we can, our organic audiences that follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, in our groups, whatever it might be, those custom audiences aren't able to be removed. They're ones that Facebook want us to continue to leverage. So since the start of the year, I've been telling basically everyone that will listen to me that's running ads, I'm like, you need to be spending money on promoting your content, not because it's going to do anything amazing for you right now, but it's going to build you an audience that you can then put in after. You're still going to be able to use lookalikes, build a lookalike off of the warm audience that watches, consumes your content. So number one, you've obviously still got to have good content that's out there. But number two, if you do that and then couple that with some paid ads to the right portion of audience you want to hit, you should be able to build your own audience. And I think that's what people have to do. For me, I'm just like as much content ads, as many awareness building ads as I can to build up a good audience so that when it happens, I'm already a step or two ahead where I can use those custom audiences, have lookalikes of those, and I really use those to build things out.
That makes sense. What's your strategy there? So, like, you can put money behind all sorts of content pieces, but number one, how do you know Are you talking about in terms of likes or shares or comments? What are we looking for there? Like, first of all, what kind of content should we be boosting? And second of all, how do we know it's the right kind of content to prepare ourselves?
So for me, like the content that you're producing, obviously, if you're talking to people about what it is that you do and you've got somewhat of the pain points that they have, for me, that's the best sort of content where
Okay.
people can go, that's me. I have that problem, or they connect with it in some way, shape, or form. That's the best sort of content that can be going out there. It's not your normal. I know a lot of people promote like inspirational posts and all this sort of stuff and try and build that. But again, that defeats the purpose. This is to try and find those people that have a problem that you solve so you can build a pool of your ideal clients and customers. That's really what we want. And then for me, the ads that I like the most at the moment are either Instagram profile visits or driving into Messenger to try and solve a problem, because they're two pools of audiences that you can build on the back end. You can go anyone that's engaged with my profile as a pool, and then anyone that's messaged me. So we do a lot of try and drive a lot of conversations, because then if that's like that next level of intent. So the first pool that I have is those people that just visit my profile, engage with my content in some way, shape or form. They might like it, they view it, or they comment. And then the next pool is like the next level of consideration where it's like, they go, okay, I like your stuff enough where then I've had a message because I've said, hey, if you want X, send me a DM, or you want my free training or whatever it might be. So then I've got a broader audience, which is like people that are there, but they haven't taken the next step. Then I have messages, which is like that next level of consideration, where then they're like, okay, like I like you enough to send you a message to try and get something. So then I can have a coolish audience and a warm audience that I can build lookalikes off of.
That makes sense. And so do you support your customers in just promoting like a handful of videos, or how are you doing that testing?
Yeah. So we do it depending on how good they are. Cause some of our customers and clients, they're like, cool, I'll put content together, but like they don't do it all the time. Especially some of our busier clients, they're like, oh, it's important. But the people that are consistent where they're dropping all the time, that's the best. Cause generally what we'll do is we'll keep at least two pieces of content running at any one point of time. Then when a new piece comes out, we add that into the mix and we just see between all of them, which has the best engagement rate and which has the best click-through rate. They're generally what we look for overall, the highest click-through rate, and then the second highest stays on, whichever one drops off. And then we just continue adding the cycle. So sometimes there's some pieces that are just like winners and they always stay in there because it just performs the best. And then the others will rotate on and off as new content comes in, so that also people aren't only seeing the same thing. Because again, once the frequency gets up too high, if it gets over like 3, then we'll also turn that off, because that just means people are seeing it way too much. So
Mhm.
a few little pieces into consideration there. But yeah, as soon as frequency gets too high, that piece will get turned off. But we're just, if someone's continually producing content, that's the best. We just add it in every week, and whichever one performs the best from a click-through rate and engagement rate, that stays on, and then that one gets turned off, but we just continue to roll that through.
What's your take on running lead gen ads as far as like a lead magnet or getting those email addresses goes?
I like that as well. That's very important for obviously your actual, like for me, I call it like a cycle of advertising. You need to have something that's helping you convert people, a conversion mechanism. You need to be building a list, because again, what happens if your ad account gets shut down tomorrow? You can't go into Facebook. Have- I've had my personal account hacked, business accounts hacked.
Mhm.
If you relied on that to communicate with people and make money, you're going to be in trouble. So still building an email list is great. Obviously, the only problem ever since all the big iOS updates is like trying to push those audiences back to Facebook and build those. They're just so low from a match rate perspective. Hence why, like previously, we probably could have got away without having to really smash all of the content, which is the last piece of the advertising cycle. But because now all of the match rates are terrible, and you get like 1 in 50 or to 10 in 50 match rates if you're really good, then it's like it causes a bit of a headache. So I still love that as a list building exercise. Then we have an email list. Then we can send them emails. We can still have a conversation off of those platforms. But it's just not as good as it used to be for us to be able to build our own audiences. Whereas before, obviously, you could almost automate. It's like person comes into your email database, they get updated in the audience on Facebook, and you're like building a really good group of people. But now because the match rates are so low, it's like it's painful. A big recommendation for people was video and video ads, because then in content, like from a content perspective, because we can build a pool of audiences of people that watch 50, 95%, 100% of your videos, which obviously engage people. And they're the people that we can start to build audiences with, because they're also the same people in my mind that would be your email openers. That would, if you've got an email and you're sending it, they're consuming your content. So we had to pivot that slightly.
Would you say that you're anticipating that, because like those iOS changes just like really rocked everybody's world who was running ads. Do you anticipate the changes coming in January for the AI stuff where Facebook and Meta is wanting us to use their AI is going to be as drastic?
For people, I think that aren't thinking about it, it will be as drastic from a results perspective. Because in my mind, if you haven't been pre-planning for it and all of your options to be able to target go away. Now, look, detailed targeting is still there. However, because they're removing the ability to exclude, that to me is just a precursor to what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And also, any campaign, depending on the campaign type you set up now, automatically has ticked on advantage detailed targeting, which is, or advantage audience targeting, which is Meta's AI. That's their AI doing it for you. So I've had people, they're like, oh, I'm getting all of these people from outside of my area come through. I look at their ads, they've got that ticked. It means like, oh, you're putting it up to Facebook and saying, let me
Enjoy.
choose.
Yeah.
So that to me, I think is where the big problem will lie. It's like for people that have had ads that have been running for a while, haven't really thought ahead about how those changes are going to affect them, it will happen. And unfortunately for us, myself included, everyone it's those of us with budgets under $10,000 a day, which is like a lot of small business owners, we're the ones that are going to be affected, because the big budgets, Facebook will they'll have enough data and information from your campaigns, from your accounts to continue to find people coming in. But if you're someone who's not hitting 70 plus inquiries a week, which most of the time is and per ad, right? If you're not getting that per ad, you're not going to have enough data for Facebook to know who to find when that change hits. So for me, that's why detailed targeting, as you said, like the amount of information and how laser we could be has been so good for so long for small business owners. When that change comes, if we're not hitting that level of conversion from what Meta counts it as, it's going to be hard for a lot of us, because it's like we then letting them optimize on something that they don't have enough data for, which
Yeah.
means they spread the net even further. And a lot of our clients will run like ads that are DMs or messages. They'll run to funnels as well, but they're not getting 70 conversions a week per ad. They might get 70 conversions in a campaign or an ad set.
Sure.
That's not enough to optimize for what Meta actually wants.
Yeah. So, what other obstacles do we have? This AI obstacle staring straight at us coming in January. What other obstacles have you seen as you are running lead generation campaigns and conversion campaigns for clients? What are some common obstacles that you've seen?
The big ones is, I think clients would call it a declining quality of lead, I would say. But for me, I would say is an increased skepticism in the marketplace, where now as markets get more sophisticated, not like fancy, like they're a Lord of Scotland, right? But as they get more sophisticated and they see more ads out there, what happens is as the competition rises, as like your competitors run more ads, as do you and everyone else, people are more inherently skeptic. Like they just are not necessarily fully understanding why they should choose you over someone else. And again, for me, that's where people that have been around long enough generally will stand out. But if you're not doing something else to provide value in the marketplace, like I said, the second layer of what we also do with our ads for our content boosting is we also retarget anyone that engages with an ad. We also retarget anyone that sends a message, or let's say if you do a lead form ad, anyone that opens and submits that lead form, we will normally pull them into a retargeting audience of like authority content. We call it becoming like the mogul of your industry. Whereas if you've got stuff where it shows that people should know you, like you, and trust you, that's that content that we want those people to see, because once they go through and leave their details, the other annoying thing that Meta's doing, and I've seen it pop up on a few different like lead ads and stuff, they're like, oh, if you liked Kim, here's 7 other marketing
Right.
people that maybe you should see. And they're all their paid ads. So on the back of me spending money with Meta, they're then suggesting, hey, go and look at all of Kim's competitors, or go and look at all of Lindsay's competitors. And I'm like, that's not good for me as an advertiser. So I've just got someone's details, and now you're being like, go and give those details to all of our competitors as well to make my job even harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And yeah, it's just getting more complicated. Now, I would love your take on this. Facebook is pretty open when it says, I think the last, statistic I read was like 80 up to 80% of the people that click on your ads could be a bot. Have you heard this? Is that the number you have heard as well? Was 80%?
Yeah, I've heard it to be up pretty high. It is pretty hard from that perspective. And that's why I think we need more ability to target things. As soon as you go
Yeah.
broader, opens up all of that fake traffic. There are a few different like apps and softwares now that are coming out to try and help stop that traffic coming through with your ads, but it's tough. And it is like absolutely bot traffic that comes through. I think Google's got the same problem. I don't think TikTok's got that problem yet, but especially inside of Meta, the traffic that comes through can be really bad. And that's why I think the more constraints we can put around our traffic so that we can do it from specific locations and try and solve all of those problems, that's what I think what we need. But again, like where the little advertisers, unfortunately, like all of us that are not spending tens of thousands a day, we get overlooked in that perspective.
Any other obstacles that you're seeing with small business owners running ads? We have bots, we got the AI, we got that the bigger fish are definitely like attention to because there's more analytics and information there. So what is your take on that? Any other obstacles?
There's always obstacles, but I think the biggest one is that because Facebook ads have been like perceived as a little bit like just chuck something up, I think people don't give it enough like gravitas. They don't put enough effort into it, which for me, with all of these things happening, I think this is where it just even more so encourages people to actually put in the effort.
Yeah.
Because I always liken it when I'm talking to people. I'm like, if I took your business and I was going to put you on TV at the Super Bowl, you would plan it pretty damn well what you're going to put in there. Like you would be
Yeah.
ridiculously looking at your what are you going to say? What's the script going to be? How are you going to make it look? All this sort of stuff. And I think with meta ads, because it's so easy, people just chuck, oh, cool. Went in Canva, did this, boom, put it up. There's a spelling error. I didn't read the copy properly. They just chuck it out there and see what works, which I'm all about testing and testing things fast as well. However, if your ad is going to be seen by more people and more relevant people than probably you would ever get in a TV campaign or commercial, you should treat it with that same level of intensity as if I said to you, cool, you've got a spot at the Super Bowl. What are you going to do? Actually plan it out. It's like you can compete with anyone else, anywhere, anytime. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter the size of your competitors, but you do have to actually put your thought into it because again, a lot of small business owners, they might have one key person of influence or a person on their team that's like the face of it. It means that we can build a relationship with people much easier than really, again, bigger brands. So if we can do that and do that properly, I think that's like a little bit of a superpower that people miss out on because they go, it's a lot harder, but I'm just going to throw something up and see what works because it's like you can set up an ad in a matter of 10
Yeah.
minutes or whatever it might be. Versus if you actually plan it out and go, okay, what do I want to be behind me in this? What am I going to say? What's my first sentence going to be? So I think if we all start to leverage that a little bit more, that's, I think, the opportunity within all of the problems.
Yeah, I think yeah, you gotta plan this out and you have to you basically get because it is expensive too, like, much less the time and competition, you're spending that much, and maybe bots are clicking on it and ad costs are rising, it's in your own best interest, like you are buying a radio ad. What kind of thought are you I like your take on that. So, can you make a comment around organic social media and how that affects ad costs? So, if I'm posting every day and I'm running ads, does that help me with my ad costs?
Facebook will tell you that it wouldn't, but I've just seen that any client of ours that posts consistently, it does decrease their ad costs. And the way that I think about it is if I see an ad and I go to there and it's from something that I don't know, but I'm somewhat interested, normally similar to when you hear something before, you might go and Google it. I don't go to that extent, but I do go to their page and just say, cool, have they got more than like 10 followers on their page? What are they posting about the same sort of stuff? And then I'll go back to the ad because now Facebook and Instagram, both when you click on an ad, if you go out of it, it still like stays at the bottom if you go to their personal page or their profile. So I always go and have a look. And sometimes if you go to a Facebook page and like, the last post was from like 2015, I'm like, maybe I won't opt into it. I won't purchase from there because it seems a little bit sus. But when I go there and it's like, cool, last post was 12 hours ago or 2 days ago or within the last week, I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. So for me, I always encourage people as much as possible to keep consistent and also remember to be consistent on both. So we had a client who was running he was running his awareness ads on Instagram, he was running his lead gen ads, and we did a breakdown of where all of his leads were coming from. And they're all coming from Facebook. But he spent all of his time optimizing his Instagram profile, making it like his bio really good with a call to action, having some links in there so he could collect leads. But his Facebook profile, he hadn't posted on. And on his Instagram, he was posting like 2, 3 times a week. Like it was different in comparison to what was on his Instagram profile. Go there. But he was having a big issue with people ghosting him. And I was like, of course people are going to ghost you when there's no trust there, because what they've seen in the ad and what they see here, like, it doesn't correlate. It doesn't make sense. So I think if you have all of those things that are consistent, sometimes when people are running ads for a product or service and you go to their page and that product or service is not there, like it's
Right.
not referenced or shown or alluded to. If you go and look at any of my stuff, whether it be Facebook, Instagrams, like hear me talking about ads. You'll see me talking about ads. You'll see client results about ads, because that's really our core focus. But if you go there and I was talking about like investing in cryptocurrency or something completely different, you'd be like, that's not what the ad was. It's like a big bit of a disconnect. So I think that having that and leveraging, even if it's old, but like pinning a piece of content where it talks about what you do. So anytime I do a new training, I pin it on my profile, especially on Instagram, so that when people come through and check, if they see an ad about my training and they see an organic post about it, it's not like, oh, this is something new that he's doing, or he consistently does this sort of stuff. I've literally seen, and we've tested it with a couple of clients in the past, and it can be upwards of like sometimes 30% difference when it comes to your ad costs if you have organic content out there as well.
Yeah, we've seen that as well. And I would argue, even against what Meta says, that if someone pauses on an ad over here, then omnipresence, you'll see them over on Instagram, and the algorithm will feed their latest content to you to see if there's a match there, if you have interest over there. So I would argue that they're definitely tied.
Mm,
Yeah.
100%. Because for businesses, obviously, Meta's goal is like getting us paying, right? They just want us to pay for ads. They just
Right.
want to get us paying them. And that's why I think a lot of the times they put their extra emphasis on or just boost this post or promote it. But how heavily I think, and that's probably a benefit of TikTok coming along, like how heavily now they're like pushing creators to create. And most creators that are actual creators of content on the platform, they're not paying for ads. They're just out there creating every day. And they had to change their algorithm, I think, to try and keep up with TikTok because of how much organic traction TikTok got. They've had to rethink that, I think. If you get that going, and again, people get upset when they do a post and they get 200 or 500 views on it, and they're like, oh, it didn't really work. I'm like, if I put you on stage in front of 500 people, you'd probably wait yourself,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, but
Yeah.
you had 500 people. That's why sometimes my content does terribly. That's very low, but I still go, cool. If I had 100 people watch it, that's 100 people that weren't watching it like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your view on where Meta ads are going in the future? Do you think it's gonna turn into Google ads where it's like only for really big businesses or like people who have serious campaigns, or you're really just throwing money away? Or what do you see for the future here?
Look, I hope not. And I think that there will still be a place for it. And the fact that they have the benefit, I think, of Meta is that they have so many options when it comes to their campaign types. Yes, they've slowly increased their budgets over time. So you used to be able to get away with a minimum of 50 cents a day budget. Then it was $1 a day. Now it's like $1.58 a day or whatever it might be. But because you can still promote your content on there and like video views and things like that, where you can go in with like literally less than $2 a day budget on some of those sorts of ads, I think that will stay. The effectiveness from like a lead gen perspective, I think will always have some hurdles to fight with. But I think because platforms like TikTok have come through and shaken things up a bit, I think that's been in our favor a little bit for the small business owners. On Meta that I see, the average cost per impression is around about $30, which is like the universal like, advertising metric. It's like how much to get this in front of 1,000 people. On TikTok, it's $6. So it's 5 times cheaper. So I think because we're always going to have, I think, new platforms coming through that will give us the potential to be able to generate leads, inquiries, views, and things like that for smaller business owners. I think they'll have to keep it available for us because otherwise, yes, we're small business owners, but of the $1 trillion per year in advertising spend, we still make up probably close to half of that. And the other
Yeah.
half is big business. So it's losing access to $500 billion in spend is still big if you cut out all the small guys. I think the fact that platforms that are coming out that are giving us more opportunity means that they've still got competition, which I think before TikTok ads came out, and obviously there was Meta, you got some people doing LinkedIn, bit of Twitter, bit of Google, but Meta was the hub. Now TikTok's come along. It's taken a bit of market share. I know there's a few people that took a lot of big dollars from Meta and took it to TikTok because it was just performing better for them.
All right. Now you've been 10 or 12 years running Meta ads. You're definitely in that world. What's one thing you wish you would have known before now, like when you first got started?
I think how much ad costs will go up. So I remember there was golden days where it was it cost me 1 cent to get someone to click on stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, compared to now, my minimum is like $1. I was like, I wish I knew that it would change that much from a pricing perspective. Obviously, I guess 10 years is a long time as well. But if I had known that what I know now would happen and change, I'm like, I probably would have spent way more back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, without any cost of what it would cost me now. So I think that, yeah, hindsight's a beautiful thing from that perspective. And I think for anyone, that's also only going to increase into the future. As now, in 10 years, if we had the same conversation, Lindsay, and we did another podcast, probably be like, cool, now it costs us $10 per click. It was costing us
Yeah.
$1.50 a click back in 2024. So I think it's always going to go up. It's a good thing to, when you have the chance to, is take advantage of as much as you can.
Thank you, Kim, so much for sharing all of your insight and your wisdom on the show. Before I let you go, I'm going to turn the time over to you. Let everyone know how to find you and anything else you want the audience to know.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, anyone, pretty much any platform, at Real Kim Barrett is where you'll find me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. And if you ever need anything, feel free to ask and shoot me any questions and whatnot too. And yeah, if there's anything I can help with, I'm just a message away. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks, Kim, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. If you're looking to sell more of your high ticket services with social media, make sure you head over to sellmorewithsocial.com and download my free guide that will outline a simple 4-step system to do just that. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. Cheers to you and your success.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Millionaire Maker Show. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share how you're leveling up your business. Want more? Connect with Lindsay Anderson and get the tools you need to crush your goals at lindsaya.com. Until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and turn those business dreams into reality.